My name's Mark Williamson. It's fantastic to be with you for another live Action for Happiness event. Thank you so much for making time for this. We're going to be talking about how to be healthy and happier all year round, but of course, particularly at this time of year when it feels so much on our minds. We are particularly excited. I'm really grateful to be welcoming Joe Wicks to be joining us today. I've been following Joe for many years now. And Joe, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
If anyone's new to this event or is a follower of Joe that's not familiar with Action for Happiness, this is a community of people who are passionate about creating a happier and kinder world. If you're a regular, thanks for being back here for another event. We're going to be having a conversation together with Joe about how to be healthy and happier. And there'll be some interactive stuff along the way for you to participate in. And later on, you'll have a chance to put your questions to Joe. I guess in many ways you need no introduction, Joe. You've become something of a national treasure when it comes to health and happiness, and you've been inspiring many of us for many years. I want to pay a particular gratitude right from the start to you and the PE with Joe activity you put on during the lockdown that kept our family fit and so many millions of others inspired. My little boy, who was only 9 at the time, is now a big strapping 15 going on 16-year-old, and we have lovely videos of him jumping around pretending to be Joe Wicks. Joe, thank you for that and for being here. Maybe you could remind us why you're so passionate about this topic.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And I'm glad that you got good memories of that time, doing the workouts. But yeah, when I met you at the event, obviously you told me a little bit about what you were doing. I was drawn to what your mission about, trying to help people live a happier life. And I'm kind of doing that through fitness and food and exercise. But, I really love what you're doing. I thought if I could contribute in any way and share my story to help other people, make some small little changes that could have an impact. I'm passionate. And I do think, that in life, I think when you're serving others and when you're offering things, I don't know, of value, and you're being kind towards other people, I get a lot of joy personally from that. So I'm looking forward to the chat, and obviously any questions that you might have at the end, fire in my way. But was the question like, who am I and what am I doing?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's a lovely scene setter. But why don't you remind us, Joe, how you got into this? Because, it's very easy to look at someone like you, incredibly successful, an author, a lot of public reach. But I know it's been a bit of a journey for you, and that's had its, obviously, physical health has been a key part of that. But I'd imagine your own mental health, mindset and well-being has been a big part of that journey as well. Do you want to remind us in a quick nutshell what you've been through?
Yeah, I'll try and summarize my sort of life and career if I can. I'm 40 years old now, but I was born into a council estate in Epsom, Surrey. I had a really young mum. She was 17 when she had my brother Nicky. She was 19 when she had me. She suffered with anxiety, eating disorders, extreme OCD, and sort of panic attacks. And then coupled with that, my dad was also suffering with addiction. He was a heroin addict. So I had two very different characters I was living with, and it was a very unstable environment. Like one minute he was clean and he was there, next minute he was gone. It'd say to me, he'd say, I'm going to get some milk, and he'd come back months later. Do you know what I mean? It was like that. And so I was always a bit unsteady, a bit kind of disruptive at school, and a little bit of I was a bit of a troubled child. I was probably a problem child, if you like, and I couldn't sit still. I couldn't focus. I was very disruptive. And the one saving grace for me was, finding exercise and sport and PE at that young age of around 6 or 7 years old. And it really became my therapy. And so for me, it's in my DNA to kind of use exercise as a coping mechanism for stress and anything that I'm feeling. And I know lots of people don't have that connection and don't really see exercise in that way. So, a lot of my energy and love for this comes from that desire to want to help people, unlock, the power of exercise and movement, because it really is an amazing tool. It's not a punishment. It's a gift that we can have, that we can use to release stress and to change how we feel. So obviously that sent me on a journey into personal training and doing boot camps and fitness classes, but I never had the intention or the vision or the ambition to sort of build an online brand and a business and a big community. What I really loved from the start was just sharing recipes and sharing workouts and seeing the impact, the inspiration it had on someone for cooking a meal or for doing a workout, and just that feedback, that instant connection with humans that I felt through social media. And I'm so passionate about this. I obviously talk to young children with my animation, and I'll talk to seniors and people that are in care homes with my sort of chair-based workouts. I really want fitness to be accessible to everybody. So that's my mission, to get help people moving, cooking and feeling positive and changing how they feel.
Thanks, Joe. That's so inspiring to hear, and kudos to you for the number of people you've got to take, even just tiny actions towards that vision. I think with this theme of healthy and happier, we're sort of talking about the interplay between both our physical well-being and our sort of minds and our moods. And you've covered a lot of that in what you've just said. But I know we could potentially break that down in some ways. And I know we're going to talk about some of your passions in areas like sleep and fitness and food, and even things like relationships and how they play in. But why don't we start with this idea of how the mind and body are linked? I mean, I presume you see every day this sort of link of when we exercise, it lifts our mood, but also, when we're in a different mindset, we're more likely to make wise decisions about food, for example, or sleep. How do you think these two link up?
I think exercise is a really powerful, it's a mood booster, it's a stress release, it builds resilience and mental strength that can help you tackle the stresses of modern life. And I often think people focus on exercise maybe for fat loss and for inches and for sort of physical external stuff, but it's when you get into the internal stuff, because I always say happiness is an inside job, and exercise, it changes the brain. It makes you feel more positive. You can deal with stress, you can sleep better, you can overcome challenges. So I just think there's this thing, like the connection that people have to make between movement not being a punishment, but being a really powerful tool that we can use. So I see it in my own life, on a personal level. When I was younger, I didn't like my body. I was really skinny. I was insecure. I started exercising because I wanted to change how I looked and stuff. But over time, I realized for me, it's the mental health benefits of exercise that really keep me going with it. I do find that I'm a better parent. I'm more patient and tolerant around my kids when I'm getting that little morning workout and I'm doing a bit of movement. So I think it's just trying to sort of open up the mindset, really, that it's not just about losing weight. It's not about physical change. It's really a mental health, mood boosting thing that is powerful. So movement in itself is medicine, right? And it's often the hardest thing to do when you're feeling down and you're low and you're stressed and anxious. But there's so much research now showing that exercise is a really powerful antidepressant. So it might not save your life and change everything, but in that moment after you exercise, there's an elevation in your mind of sort of dopamine and serotonin, and you just feel better. Like, even if it's a really short window where you feel a little bit more positive, even if it's an hour or 2 hours, like, it's always worth it, because in that moment there's clarity and you sort of feel like perspective comes in, really. So yeah, I'm always going to push exercise over anything. And hopefully people that give it a try see the transformation they can go on when they just start adopting a little bit a day. A little bit of movement every day can change everything.
So thank you, and we're going to dive into that more. But before we start coming to specific tips and ideas, which I know people are really keen, let's start by recognizing that this is not always easy for many of us. And it's so lovely to have this interactive community here together. So a question for all of you folks, wherever you are right now, listening in to Joe, what do you struggle with the most when it comes to health and indeed happiness, but particularly some of these topics around movement and food and so on? So if you'd like to take a moment to bring that to mind, but also if you want to share a couple of words in the chat, and I'll read a few of these out as they go past, and then maybe Joe, you can reflect on them. So motivation, discipline, making time for it, lack of time, energy, avoiding ultra processed food, preparation, willpower, consistency, small children, sugary food, chronic inflammation, illness, pain, being lazy, fear, procrastination, commitments, it's boring, partner who won't eat healthily, and loads more. They're just flying past here. But how are these landing with you, Joe?
No, I just say I've never been on a live chat and had so many people commenting and asking questions and opening up. It's amazing. Really, really love that. So firstly, you're not alone. A lot of these problems and issues and barriers, they affect everybody, and they're real things, because we live in an environment where, we're set up to fail. Like the food system, the food companies, the marketing, the products, the constant touch points around food and ultra processed food being bombarded on us. It's really difficult to avoid it. I'm really sorry. I had dinner and I'm a bit gassy. I keep trying not to burp. Anyway, I suffer with bloating. I'll get a bit of wind. But yeah, it's, for me, I really struggle. The exercise thing is so natural for me. The exercise is like totally default setting. It's like, it's non-negotiable, and I don't even think about it. It's just like autopilot. But the food, specifically ultra processed foods and sugar, because I was really exposed to that as a young kid. We were on benefits. We didn't have a lot of money. And so it was frozen meals. It was lots of sugar, lots of ultra processed, snacks and things. So I really struggled to eat those things in moderation. But what I've learned and on the journey I've been on with ultra processed food is that the foods are specifically scientifically engineered to be addictive and to be consumed in that fashion. So it's not your fault that you can't eat one biscuit or one Haribo or just a little piece of chocolate. You know, these foods are really designed to be consumed really fast. So, you know, it's about creating an environment and giving yourself an opportunity to basically navigate through the environment we live in, which is very stressful, time poor, sleep poor, and smashing ultra processed foods in us all the time. And that really, I think we can go through the steps and sort of habits you can use and techniques to sort of like give yourself a chance. But it's hard, you know, we live in a world where we're under pressure. We don't have much time. We're stressed. There's all these stresses. So it's much easier to turn to, you know, a bag of crisps and chocolate than a workout and doing some breathing and breath work and stuff. So it's just about understanding that you're not alone and that this is a challenge for everybody, regardless of your income, where you live, your age. Like, it's always a challenge, you know?
Well, thank you. I think that's really, really uplifting. And also thank you to everyone who's still sharing their own thoughts on this in the chat. I mean, you're not alone and it's not your fault is a pretty strong message, because this is hard and we're in a world that's not necessarily on our side. And the thing I love about your work, Joe, is you're constantly telling us little things can make a big difference and they add up over time. And when I asked you where we should start in terms of the foundations, I was interested that the first thing you said was sleep. Do you want to start there?
Yeah, look, the truth is, you know, I can talk about exercise and food and nutrition, but if you're not getting enough sleep and you're not rested, it's really, really almost impossible. Like, and I experienced this with 4 kids. I've got 4 kids under 7, so my sleep is constantly broken. I wake up, you know, in my bed with at least 1 or 2 kids kicking me every morning. Like, it's, you know, I always get woken up, and it's hard. I wake up and I'm grumpy, I'm impatient, I feel like, you know, stressed that I've been woken up. But that reminds me to do the daily exercise, you know, the morning the morning routine. But the sleep is like, imagine the sleep as the foundations, right? When you're getting a good night's sleep or you're prioritizing that sleep routine, it means that you wake up the following day with energy to actually sort of exercise and put a bit of effort into that, and have more willpower around food and better choices. Because when we're tired and sleep deprived, we crave the sugar, the ultra processed food, the comfort foods. You know, it's like when you're hungover, like your body wants these things. So I think getting a good bedtime routine and really seeing it as an investment as opposed to like it's a sacrifice. I always say, like, as a family, you know, celebrate an early night, because it means you'll wake up in a better mood and you'll wake up with the ability to achieve what you really want in the day, as opposed to like staying up till 1 a.m. watching films or doom scrolling on your phone. All it does is sacrificing what you want to achieve the following day. So sleep really is so important.
So let's get to practical tips when we cover each of these topics then. So on sleep, I think you've already hinted that regularity and sort of getting into a routine is one of them. But I think you, tell me what your top sleep tips are, because you mentioned doom scrolling on phones there. I wondered what you think about that topic, for example.
Yeah, the phone for me is one of the biggest disruptors. Apart from my children, you know, the phone and social media, like doom scrolling for sure, like, is one of the things that keeps me up. And so I've got a rule where I just don't have the phone in my bedroom. I leave it downstairs. I've got an alarm, like a Lumia alarm clock over there that wakes me up. So it gives me a chance to like stay off the phone, disconnect. And every day at 9:30 p.m, I've got an alarm that goes off that says, I have a good sleep routine. Because it reminds me that actually, no, Joe, you've got to put your phone down. You've got to get to bed, because if you don't, you're going to be on your phone till half 10, 11, watching Netflix till 12 if you get hooked into a really good series, and suddenly you're not doing your morning workout, you're eating loads of chocolate. Because a lot of my sort of like unhealthy eating happens in the evening, sort of between like say 9 and 11 p.m. That's when I get the munchies and I'm down in the cupboard, like raiding the cupboard and eating like 7 slices of marmalade and toast. So, you know, going to sleep earlier helps me with my food intake, but also, you know, it just means that I just wake up ready to exercise. And I think having the phone in your bedroom is the biggest thing. It's the thing that keeps most people awake, you know, so try and get that out of the room. That's going to help you.
Yeah, lovely tip. And I find that the biggest like complaint people have when you suggest that one is to say, but I use my phone as my alarm clock. And we're like, well, we did survive for a long time before phones became our alarm clocks. You can still buy like £5 digital, analog, clocks to tell you what the time is. We don't need our phones.
Yeah, they work. They do work. So I've got one that's like a Lumi thing. It wakes up like a bird's tweeting and it's a light. But that was a big shift, because I used to say the same thing, like, my phone's my alarm and it wakes me up, and I'd be doom scrolling till, midnight, and I'd wake up in the night to go to the toilet and I'd be on my phone for an hour, and it was so disruptive. So sleep is the #1 priority. If you can focus on that, it's going to help you with the following tips we're going to talk about.
Yeah, nice. And the only one I'd add actually is I found personally in experimenting with this stuff, because I like to think about how we can all be a bit of a happiness scientist in our own lives, Joe, that we can sort of just try stuff out. And if it doesn't work, drop it. And if it works, stick with it. And one of the things I found kind of reluctantly was because I used to love a late night snack, but I found that if I stopped eating earlier, I sleep so much better. And so that was just like, I don't know if that necessarily will work for everyone, but that really helped me get to bed quicker. So let's come on. So where do we go after sleep? Do we then wake up and get into movement? What's next?
I think, I'm a big fan of obviously home workouts, like short little sets that you can do in your living room or in your garden, and it makes it accessible. You don't have to have a gym and a personal trainer to achieve this, and you don't need a perfect like hour a day. And I really believe in a morning workout only because it sets you up for the day. Obviously, if it's not possible and you're someone who can't do exercise in the morning, it's not the end of the world. Do it in the afternoon or in the evening, but it really just sets you up for a positive day. It reduces that stress and tension from the body if you've got something on your mind, and it sets you up for an energetic day. So for me, I'm all about the morning workout before I have breakfast, and for me, it just sets me up for a really good.
So Joe, tell me about motivation, because I think some of us might wake up and feel a bit like, oh, I'm not sure I've got the energy to work out today or to do anything. How do you combat that kind of lack of motivation?
I feel that most days myself. Like I've always said, like I don't wake up like desperate to exercise, but I have this reminder, and I've got a little post on my wall in the gym that says, you never regret a workout. Do you know what I mean? Like you always feel better afterwards. So I always say, the motivation and the energy that you want is at the end of a workout. So you're not going to wake up always feeling motivated, always feeling inspired to exercise. But if you just move your body and do anything, at the end of it, there's your self-accomplishment. There's your sense of like achievement and energy and kind of like, focus for the day. So that's it. It's the simple thing. You've just got to get up and move and do it. And it could be going for a walk 10 minutes around the block. It doesn't have to be like squat jumps and burpees and lifting weights. It can be gentle movement, but it all has an impact on the brain.
I really like the fact you've made that point, because of course some people have different accessibility or ability sort of challenges and opportunities in their lives. So for some people, movement might be stretching if that's what they're able to do, or as you say, go for a walk. So I think that, but I love this point that, we often say in our community that, don't wait for motivation to take action, and that becomes the motivation. And I think that's a lovely example of it. What about though the fact that some of us are thinking about exercise through this mindset of, I must lose weight, I must look better, and all these kind of ways we torment ourselves? Sounds like you're saying sort of let go of that narrative. Is that right?
Yeah, you just reshift your mindset around like exercise is I have to do it, and it's a punishment because I hate my body. I wish I wasn't big. I wish I lost weight and I didn't look this way. I wish I was younger and all this stuff. Like actually just focus on how exercise makes you feel, right? And this is what's going to happen if you do a bit of exercise. You're going to sleep better. You're going to make better food choices. You're going to feel less stressed and more positive about the world we live in. And, then if you do it long enough, then you start to lose weight, because there's no shortcuts for anything, right? It compound, you start losing a bit of body fat, you feel more energized, you feel less bloated. They all feed into each other. So the sleep, exercise and diet all kind of, it's like a self-fulfilled prophecy. Like the more you live that lifestyle, the easier it gets and the more it compounds. But, don't see exercise as a punishment, because movement is medicine. Like you said, you could be doing a chair-based exercise, just moving your arms, doing a bit of stretching, a bit of twisting, like a bit of deep breathing, and that's movement, So I think it's really about just reprogramming your mind a little bit. And if you've got bad experiences with sport and exercise and PE, like forget about that, because you can just think about today. Like no one's judging you if you're training at home or in the gym. People just getting on with their lives. Like it's about you taking care of your vehicle, like your body and your mind. It's like you wake up in that body, you go to sleep in that mind. So it's like, given exercise, I think is a non-negotiable. It's an essential part of human health and happiness. So see it like that and think about daily wins. 10 minutes here, 20 minutes there. It's not got to be like a serious 1 hour workout. A little bit of movement every day is amazing for your mind.
Well, where I was going to go with that was how do we build it into our daily lives? And one of my favorite research studies took people who I think they were working as cleaners, and they talked to them about the benefits of exercise and helped them see, like, what is it in your daily work? Cleaning the floor, going up and down stairs, and it's like realizing that that's actually physical exercise, and just the mindset shift of thinking, oh, I'm not just cleaning, I'm looking after my body. They could measure sort of physiological changes, but it also encouraged them to see it that way. And that's an interesting example. But we can all, of course, build ways of being active into our daily routine, whether it's walking around the park with a pram with a baby, or whether it's, getting off the bus to stop early, or going the stairs instead of the lift. Have you got any sort of favourite ways of just making it? I mean, mine is I cycle to work instead of getting the train every day, like almost non-negotiable. Yeah. That's how I've built it into my day. Have you seen any other nice ways of sort of making natural exercise fall into the day like that?
I do think, walking is an amazing place to start, because it's low energy, but it's also really good for the mind, especially if you're outside in nature getting fresh air. So I would always say start with walking. Could be, walking on your lunch break, picking up the phone. I call it a walkie-talkie, where, you just ring someone, have a little chat, or connect with someone when you're walking for 5K. Like, it's amazing. And it doesn't have to be like this competition. It's not about speed and distance. Just walk somewhere beautiful, And as I said, I'm a big fan of home workouts, in the sense that you don't need equipment. You could just do 10 squats, 10 lunges, 10 dips, a couple of star jumps, and you've got a full body workout, So I don't think there's this pressure for people to like get to the gym and do the intense sessions and that, but actually like just doing a little bit in your living room when the TV's on, or having a stretch on the floor as you're watching your Netflix show. Like, this is good. It's good. And it's sort of like, it just fits into your day a little bit easier, rather than seeing it as this separate time. Like, a lot of the time I'll just sit on the floor, do a bit of stretching when I'm watching the TV show, and it's like, there, it's done. You know what I mean? And my hips feel better.
I really love that walkie-talkie idea of a lunchtime chat with a friend. It's social, it's outdoors, it's just better than doing the same while sitting at a desk. So let's move on. I think we've got the point. As you said, movement's medicine in a way, and it kind of helps us in so many ways. And then, of course, we power all of our physical activity with the food and the energy we consume. And of course, we're in this world, as you said earlier, where we're bombarded with all kinds of unhealthy choices. Tell us a bit about how you see food and nutrition. Obviously, you're passionately interested in food and write brilliant books about cooking, and but some of us might feel a bit incompetent in the kitchen, or a bit lacking in knowledge about what healthy food even is. Where do you start, Joe?
Look, it's a bit of a minefield, especially with social media, because you sort of get confused by so many messages around what's right and what is good for me, and what's the right type of diet. But I always say, like, you should eat to feel awesome, yeah? Whatever it is for you. It could be high protein, it could be higher fat, higher carb. Who knows? You just got to try these things out. But ultimately, it comes down to one simple rule, right? Home cooking with whole ingredients. It could be tin of chickpeas, or it could be chicken breast, but it's a whole food. You know what I mean? It's not been processed. It's not had those additives and sugar and emulsifiers and gums and stuff like that. So really just try and go to the source. And I think building your confidence in the kitchen and learning to love food and enjoying the process of cooking is the key to success, because once you're in that routine of sort of like sitting down on the weekend, planning your meals, getting your ingredients, then you're kind of like protecting yourself from the fast food, ultra processed food industry, because you've got your ingredients and you know what you're eating. You're less likely to buy the meal deals and the takeaways, because you've got your food at home and you don't want it to go to waste, So I do think that sitting down and planning your meals week is a really positive like action to take. But yeah, you just understand that good food puts you in a good mood, and junk food physically and emotionally can drain you and bring you down and really affect your mental health. There's studies now around anxiety and depression and ultra processed foods. Like, it's a real correlation. So you can eat yourself into a good mood, or you can eat yourself into a low state. And I just think you need to be conscious of that when you're consuming and choosing what to eat today.
So let's come to those tips then. So I really like this idea of planning, and it sounds like you're quite conscious about like shopping to think in advance and planning, and potentially I think I've heard you talk about sort of is it batching, when you sort of like cook a number of meals in advance, like at a weekend, and then you might freeze some and you might keep some, and you might take your own lunch to where you're going, like take it to work and so on. I mean, how does that work for you? Do you consciously think about like a number of days ahead, a whole week ahead? How would you suggest people approach that?
Look, I'm like anybody. If I leave the house with no food, or I'm traveling around the UK on a book tour or something, and I'm eating in hotels and smashing the breakfast buffet, stopping at petrol stations and eating sandwiches and meal deals, like, it's really, really hard on the go, right? When you're at home, you obviously can control things a bit more, because you can decide what to eat, what's going in the meals. But just by simply like making a big batch of a curry or a bolognese or a chili or a risotto, it means that you can come home the next day and you've got your lunch ready, or you've got a bit ready for dinner that you can just walk in and reheat. So it's little steps like that really make a difference. So I'm not like 7 days ahead. I probably plan for the week, but I cook probably like maybe 1 or 2 days ahead. So I've got like a massive, I made this chili thing, and I made like these sort of rice bowl sort of thing. And this means I can come in, like, whack it in the mic, got meals there for the kids and Rosie if she's hungry. And it really helps you as a family stay on a healthy diet, because you're not panicking and grabbing a takeaway or Deliveroo or Uber Eats. So you're like, do you know what? I've made my meals. I don't want that to go to waste. So it's a really big lifestyle change when you get into that batch cooking mentality, because you're protecting yourself from the constant barrage of marketing of ultra processed food item, because you're good. You've got your food. You're sweet. You're done. You're sorted for the day.
Yeah, nice. The other thing in our house is full of old sort of Tupperware or old sort of takeaway containers that have been reused hundreds of times, or every meal where there's some left, or there's a thing that's been made, it gets popped in the fridge in some kind of container to be reused the next day. Or my wife's an absolute genius at getting the most out of freshly cooked food and making it last. And but I love this idea that you're protecting yourself against the sort of challenges, because at the end of the day, we're in an industry that's trying to sell us stuff that is intentionally addictive and intentionally pushing all of our sort of more sensors and making us want to keep eating. I like the point you made there, which is there's a lot of competing information and sort of maybe sort of confusing stuff on social media, and actually to some extent it's working out what gives you that sense of I feel good. And I again come back to this idea of being a little bit of a happiness scientist in your own life. I experimented, and I found for me dropping quite a lot of sugar out of my diet made a big difference, and also leaving bigger gaps between meals, like not snacking. So like having a meal and then having a break for a few hours and then having another meal, and that made a huge difference to energy levels and sleep and so on. So everyone's different. I guess we all have different metabolisms, different gut health, don't we? But how
let's talk about that, because that's practically, let's talk about the practicalities of what you should really be eating. So things you should try and do is like avoid ultra processed food. So things that loads of shelf life, loads of sugar and salt and additives and emulsifiers, and just loads of artificial sweeteners. Because what happens is you eat them and your brain's like, well, you still feel hungry and you think about those things all the time. And so that food noise we talk about, is there, because when you're eating, the more sugar you consume, the more you want it.
Yeah.
You start to reduce it and you sort of don't depend on it. It's such an amazing feeling to like clear your mind and that dependency of like, I need a chocolate bar and a can of Coke every day. I need pudding every day, like constant, or even like loads of fruit and loads of honey or whatever, just anything sweet. So when you really reduce the sugar from your diet and focus more on protein and like, healthy fats, your energy levels are more stable. So think about, can you have eggs and a bit of chicken or some fish or lentils and chickpeas and tofu or whatever it may be, because it just fills you up for longer. It doesn't spike your blood sugar levels and makes you just have a sort of a constant energy supply. That's a huge shift. And the second thing is around, like, you said, like this snacking mentality of like always grazing all through the day is where most people go wrong, because you could eat really well sort of, all through the day, get to the evening and smash 1,000 calories worth of biscuits and crisps and olives or whatever it may be, or little bits of cheese and all these little snacks you might be eating. Like it all adds up. So if you get into the mindset of like, you know what, I'm just going to have 2 meals a day or 3 meals a day, and in between, just don't even think, I know it's hard, but don't think about filling those gaps with food. Let yourself get real hunger, let your appetite build. And as a natural byproduct, you will start to lose body fat. You'll lean up a little bit without counting calories, because it's naturally reducing those things, and the same with like, fizzy drinks and drinking all your calories. Try not to, avoid drinking calories and just drink more water and enjoy the meals, enjoy food that fills you up. Do you know what I mean? And suddenly like you look around and go, wow, like I feel great, lost a bit of weight, got more energy, I'm sleeping better, I'm less bloated. That's the benefits, right? That's really what you've got to focus on.
Beautifully put, thank you, and really, really practical examples. And actually, that point about sort of getting rid of the mindset of I want to lose weight and focusing more on that I want to eat healthily and be at my best, and then you get that as a sort of side effect. I think that's a really lovely bridge, actually, to the next theme I wanted to ask you about, which I think brings together some of what we talked about on sleep and on movement and on food, and it's that of mindset, really. And you've sort of been hinting at it all the way along, but I like this idea of identity-based goals. And one of our experts, Vanessa King, did a lovely video in January about, instead of thinking I want to lose weight, think I want to be a healthy person, and that drives your goals based on your identity. But you talked earlier about a lovely alarm you have about your sleep routine, but you told me about one that I loved even more, about your is it your 6:30 p.m. alarm that has something about your identity? Tell us about that, Joe.
Yeah, I think the identity based goals, it's like, rather than saying, oh, I've got to do it, I've got to work out tomorrow, I've got to go and do that running. So actually, no, have the alarm or something that goes off, a reminder that says, I am a morning exerciser. It's just like, that's who I am. I get done in the morning. It's me. Well, I have one that goes off at 6 p.m. the most powerful one for me, it says, I am a phone-free dad. So you can, when you set an alarm, you can label the alarm. So the alarm is called, I am a phone-free dad. And what it does is it reminds me at 6 p.m. when I'm either cooking dinner or doing, bedtime and story, or like Lego or whatever, playing a bit of guitar with the kids, just to be present and just to be like off my phone. Sometimes, I'll be honest, I ignore it, right? And I go, no, not tonight. But most of the time, it reminds me to turn the phone off, leave it in another room, go down, or leave it downstairs. And that 2 hours with them is so precious, because actually I'm not irritable. I'm just with them in their little world, whether it's running around, playing hide and seek. And I'm not like running back to my phone all the time, because I end up going and picking it up and I'm like, why am I doing this? Why have I rushed that book? Why did I just read 2 pages of that book with them? Why didn't I do the whole thing? And so it's made me slow down for those 2 hours. And, I'll read like 2 or 3 books with the kids. Like I do a little bit of Lego with one of my kids. And I've got, it's mad trying to get 4 kids to bed, but it's really helped me like appreciate that time and bond with them and connect in a way that I just couldn't possibly do when I had my phone and that distraction of like pulling me back to check Instagram, read messages, post a story. It's like, actually, no, just them 2 hours of mine with my kids. And it's been amazing. So yeah, really, really useful, that one.
I am a phone-free dad is my favourite affirmation and reminder that I've heard about for a long time. Thank you for sharing that, Joe. It's really, as a dad with slightly older kids now, I remember that phase, and I remember that I was really guilty of that problem you've described, of just thinking, why am I looking at this silly brick when I want to be with these people I love so much? And yet, having that identity of thinking this is who I am, not just I need to do, is a really clever reminder, real nudge to be our best selves, I guess. But let's talk about...
Brief though on that, like the phone is an addictive substance. Social media technology is an addictive substance. Same with the food, right? So when you struggle with sugar and you struggle with your phone and looking at Instagram and TikTok and consuming the news and whatever it may be, Twitter and that's like, it's designed like that. It's designed to stick you on there and to keep you engaged. So you're not a failure, but the only way you can really step back from it is if you disconnect, physically unplug for an hour here, 2 hours here, leave it in the car when you go for a walk. Like, don't take it on every time you go to the gym or go for a run. Like, try and step away from it. And so that is a really important part of health, because so much of my anxiety and stress comes from looking at social media. Do you know what I mean? So it's really important to acknowledge that it is a drug, it is addictive, and it's been designed that way. And if you can just turn it off for a few hours here and there, you regain a little bit of that presence and that sort of calm in your mind that's really precious, and really rare.
So how do we link these identity-based goals, which I love, to the very real challenge of habit formation, Joe? Because lots of us, especially at the start of the year, begin with great intentions and we want to keep something that lasts, and we perhaps set ourselves too ambitious goals in a way. And I think I've heard you talk about consistency and like the small repeatable habits. Maybe having that little reminder every day is one example of that. But what is it about our mindsets that can help us go from a world where we might do it for a little bit and then stop, versus a world where we maybe do less each day, but it lasts and it becomes part of our lives? Have you got any tips on how to make it last?
Yeah, so I've got this little philosophy. It's not like it's not rocket science, but I just focus on small daily wins, right? So today it could be, right, tonight I'm going to go to bed at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock rather than 11 o'clock. I'm going to get an hour extra sleep. Like, that's a win. So even if you've done no exercise, at least you've had one positive thing. Or you might say, look, I'm not going to get to bed early tonight, but I'm going to make sure I cook a healthy meal. Or I'm going to, find time to do a 15-minute workout on my lunch break. That's a daily win. And these things that, they are insignificant on their own, but over a week and a month, like they really compound, and suddenly you are living a healthier life. You are doing more activity. You are eating better, and you're, reconnecting with your family and stuff. So I don't think you should try and do everything all at once. I think it's about focus on break it down into small little goals, accept that there's going to be days when you're tired and stressed and you eat loads of chocolate and you eat loads of crap and you feel shit, but actually it's okay, because we all do that. Sometimes we turn to food. It's a stress relief. That also makes us feel better in the moment. You're not a loser or a failure. Acknowledge it, but don't let that day become a week and a month and get sucked into it and get drawn down into that low state, So it's okay to miss a workout. It's okay to have a lazy day and sit on the sofa. And it's also okay to doom scroll till midnight. But just acknowledge that when you do those things, it takes you away from happiness, away from energy, away from feeling good about yourself. So just catch the feeling, catch the thought. Like, if you're stressed out and you think, oh, you know what? I'm going to get a take. I'm going to go and do a chalky run. I'm going to go and have a blowout. Before you do that, catch that feeling and be like, you know what? If I do that, I know how I'm going to feel afterwards. Why don't I just pick up the phone and call someone, or go for a 20-minute walk, or lift some weights for half an hour. And then maybe if I still feel the same, I'll go and do the chocky runs. You know what I mean? But it's really trying to catch the behavior and stop yourself repeating those things. And I'm starting to do that now. Like, whereas I've got two options. If I get stressed out, I either go upstairs to the gym or I go down to the kitchen and start eating. And sometimes I'll start eating something healthy. Then I'll eat a bowl of granola and I go, you know what? I'm having some toast. And then I hit the chocolate. And then before you know it, I'm around the shop getting more chocolate and ice cream. So it just depends where I let my mind go, you know. And I just think sometimes you've got to just, before you act, take a moment and remember the exercise is the reward and healthy food is the treat. It's not the ice cream. It's not the chocolate bar. Like, that doesn't make me feel good. Do you know what I mean? So that's a really important mindset to think of, that healthy food is the treat. That is the reward. And that's genuinely going to make you feel better. You're going to feel happier and more in control because you've made a choice like that, as opposed to going to smash a bag of Oreos, you know?
So in a moment, I'm going to come to questions from the audience, because I know people have got lots that they want to ask you, Joe, and this has already been fantastic. But there's one other topic which is so important to us in this community about togetherness, relationships, community, and it feels a little bit tangential in some ways to sort of the simple basics of sleep and nutrition and movement. And yet somehow the social aspect of our lives is particularly under threat right now with loneliness and some of the challenges we face. How do you think relationships fit into all the stuff we've just been talking about?
It's a massive, massive part of happiness, isn't it? I mean, connection and feeling like you've got a little bit of a tribe and a connection with your friends and family, because we do live in a world where we're on Instagram, we're sending to our DMs and memes and we're laughing for a second and, you know, we're WhatsApp voice note and stuff, but are we really connecting and picking up the phone? I mean, even me, like, I can go a whole week without ringing my mum and I'm like, no, I've got to pick the phone up. I've got to make an effort. I've got to get around for the night, have a sleepover. Let's spend the weekend together. Like, I'm so conscious of, like, I suppose, keeping those relationships close and letting people feel loved and not feel lonely. And for me, I'm the glue. Like, I'm the glue amongst my friends. You know, I'm the one that says, come, we're going for dinner, or let's go for a workout, or let's go to to a festival for the day. Like, I'm just the one that I always get. They just wait for me to do it, basically. Like, I know then that's just my role. But I do think, sometimes face to face or picking up the phone at least and really saying, how are you feeling? What's going on? And voicing things. Because I pick up the phone to some friends and, they say, yeah, I'm good. I'm not too bad. And I say, how's things with the missus or with work? And then they suddenly open up and you go, actually, they're really under pressure. They're really struggling financially, or, they're emotionally with the relationships and stuff and with the kids and that. And so I think it's a part of the connection that we sort of take for granted sometimes and we forget. And so, yeah, I really believe that reaching out and asking the question, like, and getting someone to, like, come into your conversation it can be life-changing and life-saving as well, I imagine.
It really can. And of course, you can also do your movement with a fitness buddy. You can eat your food in a social context. So these other things we talked about can be inherently sociable as well. Joe, I think we've had so many great ideas already. And in fact, I've seen lots in the chat from the community as well. I might suggest we just pause for a moment before we go to Q&A and just ask this amazing community, what have you been most inspired by what Joe's shared so far? What kind of action idea are you most wanting to now bring into your life, whether it's about a sleep routine or the movement or something else? So if you'd like to share a couple of words in the chat, we'll just sort of see what kind of things are resonating with people. So phone-free mummy, movement, yes, honesty, daily wins, just general positive Joe attitude, alarm messages, identity goals, just get started, movement is medicine, sleep, food prep, keep it small, ring up people, small exercise every day, stop smashing the ice cream, early mornings, identity goals. And loads. I can't even read them. They're going back so fast. But I love that. That's a really lovely mix of the things you've talked about, Joe.
I love that. Yeah, really interactive. And also, people sort of resonate with different things. But one thing I would say it's really important to understand is coming to terms and coming to peace with the fact that staying lean and a healthy body weight and active and calm and patient and sleeping well, it's really not easy. It's not easy in January. It's not easy during Easter and summer and Halloween and Christmas, when all these events are so driven by food and sugar and overconsumption and stuff. It's just really challenging. But acknowledge that you're not going to be perfect every day. You are going to have days where you struggle and you go backwards a little bit, but don't let that destroy or derail your efforts. And just remember, it's okay to have a really lazy really greedy day with the food and just cane it. But don't let that be a normal thing. Don't let it be an everyday occurrence, because it really is. It really will generate more anxiety, more depression. You're going to gain weight. It's going to affect your health. But actually, if you just keep coming back to them basics, those four things we talk about: sleep, exercise, nutrition, and connection to people. Suddenly, all them pressures, like, they're still there, but they're less in your face and they're more manageable. And that's the key, right? It's about living in that mindset of one day at a time. What can I do today? And it makes a difference, and it really will help you on those days you're struggling, I think.
So we're going to come to some questions from this audience, Joe. And if you have a question, please use the Q&A function, and you can actually also vote on each other's questions. If you see another one you like, give it a thumbs up and it'll jump up the list. And I'm going to start with one from John, who says, I'd be interested to know about Joe's thoughts on self-doubt. Do you have self-doubt yourself, Joe? How do you deal with it? Tell us.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I've always had this. I come from an environment where I wasn't encouraged to be, entrepreneurial, work hard, or just be anything. I was always just, people just assumed I was going to be a wrong un and end up, in crime and drugs. But I made a decision that I wanted to live a different life and break the cycle. And I suppose to me, I've had this positive voice in my head, this cheerleader that says, you know what, Joe, it's not always going to be perfect, and it might not work out straight away, but you've got to keep showing up. You've got to keep turning up. So I don't have that sort of negative voice or imposter syndrome about anything I've achieved, because I've just worked really hard, and I've always believed that anything's possible if you really want something, if you work for it. I don't know where that voice comes from. I've never had a kind of mentor or role model in my life that said, you can do this. I just sort of instinctively thought, you know what, if I work hard enough at something, things will change. Like, if I go to the gym, I'll get fit. If I lift weights, I'll get strong. It's the same with work or relationship. You've got to put in the effort and be willing to just do a little bit, take a bit of action. So yeah, I can't relate to it, but I do know that a lot of people do struggle with self-doubt, and just start to challenge the voice. If you hear a voice that says, look, you're a failure, you've always been overweight, you never stick to a diet, you never do exercise long enough, you're never going to achieve anything, that will happen, that will be true. But if you challenge that voice and say, you know what, I'm gonna just take some of this advice on board, and I'm gonna make little steps, little progressive steps towards my goal, I can change every single part of my life if I'm willing to, and it will work, it will happen.
We talk about this idea of having agency with Action for Happiness, and it's, as you exactly were saying, when you do something, you give that sense of self-belief, and it kind of becomes a self-reinforcing circle of oh, I did that and it made a difference, and now I can do something else. Yeah. So that's a lovely example. Now, there's a really popular question here from Deborah. How do I overcome overthinking when I should be sleeping? This is a huge sleep disruptor for me. Thank you, Deborah. Great question.
Oh, so a lot of people, in fact, one of the blogs I shared on Instagram this year, I said, it's about a racing mind, how to calm a racing mind. Yeah. It's one of the most opened clicks and links and blogs we've sent, because I think a lot of people, they're struggling with all sorts. They've got a constant barrage of media and politics and, crisis and trauma on a global level, but also personal stress and finance and the cost of living. And it's just so much for us to think about. And so, you've got to get strategies in place that can help you just to, again, get perspective, right? Because I get overwhelmed by things, and sometimes it might be just be putting the phone down and reading a book, or going for a walk, or doing exercise. For me is for sure the most powerful thing for my mind. But it's just little strategies, or a bit of breath work, a bit of yoga, listen to a nice sleep story, a nice calming audio book or something. It doesn't have to be all or nothing, but some of these things will somehow reduce that noise and just help you quieten down. But there's so many factors in terms of sleep. It could be your diet, it could be your exercise, it could be all these things. Try and adjust a few of those things, and maybe the sleep will come easier.
Well said. Another thing the research shows is gratitude. If you can just remember things that you're grateful for from the day, that does help you sort of disconnect and sleep. And related to sleep, I'm going to join two questions together here, one from Rush and one from Joanna. Rush says, what are your thoughts on sleep supplements like magnesium and melatonin when sort of the herbal teas before bed don't quite cut it? And Joanna says, what are your top tips to help you get to sleep when you're finding it difficult?
Yeah, I think I'm not personally big on supplements, but it's only because I just feel like I get enough from exercise and food. But obviously there are great supplements out there, but I don't know what I would recommend in that sense. I always just think that, if you're doing the movement and you're really kind of being physical throughout the day, or you're giving yourself a chance to put good food in your body, I do think it just settles you a little bit more at night. But ultimately, it's just stress. We live in a fast-paced modern world where we're bombarded. Like for me, if I have my phone open, I had to delete Twitter because I was just seeing so much horrible,
Yeah.
really damaging, traumatic stuff, and all the stuff, with Trump, and it's like it was just too much. So like I deleted the app, and it really calmed me. It just, for some reason, it just helped me. Like it's one less thing to think about. So it could just be something as simple as that. The phone really does cause a lot of anxiety and stress for people, and we're all addicted to it, right? So trying to have a better relationship with the phone, putting that in another room and decompressing, like not just 10 minutes before bed, like an hour before bed, turn it off. And I just think that's a massive has a massive impact on your mind and helps you calm down a little bit.
I like that point about an hour before bed. The idea of a sleep routine is not just like I go to bed now. It's like I've begun to wind down.
Yeah.
Now, this question from Julie is a really important one. Do you think that 64 is too old to start getting fitter? Thank you, Julie.
Julie, never. It's never ever too late to get fit. I met a lady a few months ago. She's 92 years old, and every
Wow.
day she does one of my workouts on YouTube. It's a 10-minute senior workout, like a chair-based workout, and I love that. I love that she's still in a daily routine, trying to stay fit and strong, because the body can, when it's sedentary and it's not being fed well, like it will get slow and stiff and tight and inflamed. But if you don't move, all those things come on more. The arthritis, the stiffness, the pains, the joint stiffness. Like, so you've got to just be thinking about just gentle movement, little bit here and there, like every day if you can, and it will change. It will change how you feel. It can reduce injury, reduce pain. And you can still build strength. There's nothing stopping you from building muscle and building strength if you're willing to, add a bit of resistance and stuff as well. Maybe get some resistance bands and stuff. And the great thing about YouTube, right? You can go on YouTube and just go, right, give me a chair-based workout or a banded workout for people with dodgy shoulders, or like this. If you're specific, there's so much free content on there. And yeah, it's never too late. Get going.
Lovely. Very wise. I'm certainly hoping to still be on my bike well into my 90s if I make it that far. So Catherine's got an important question. Thank you, Catherine. You mentioned, we talked about snacking earlier, and she's asked, is it okay to eat fruit as snacks between meals, as we're being told we should eat 5 a day, or is it better to have like fruit with or after meals?
Yeah, I mean, look, I love my fruit, but I also really struggle to eat like one apple or one satsuma. Like once I get a bit of sweetness in me, like I just lose it. My mind, I love the reward of sugar, and so it's not unhealthy, of course not. And it's got the fiber and it's got the vitamins and minerals, but again, you don't want to be smashing it all day long, because it is high carbohydrate, and obviously if you're trying to lose a bit of body fat and stuff, and sort of get a bit leaner, it might it's okay to have a couple of pieces a day, but I definitely focus more on the veg, the leafy green veg, cauliflower, broccoli, sort of all those lovely like lentils and grains as well, like pulses. So you've got like butter beans, chickpeas, lentils, quinoa, like all them things, because they've got a bit of protein in as well. So yeah, like I said, I do love my fruit, but I can't have it all day every day because it's too much for me. I have to have maybe 1 or 2 pieces a day.
I just want to zoom in on something you said there, Joe, about the fibre in fruit, because this is something wake up for me. But I used to think that like all the fruit smoothies were super healthy, but then of course, like what you're often doing there is getting rid of the fibre that's naturally in fruit, and you're just eating the kind of sugary bit of the fruit, and therefore eating a whole fruit is probably better for you than juicing it and just having the sweet bit. And that was a wake up for me. And now, of course, all fruit's better than fake stuff, but I thought that idea of like nature's packaged this as a healthy thing. Don't go ripping out or leaving behind some of the healthy fibre.
Yeah, that's the thing. That when you consume the juices, obviously, and even like a freshly squeezed orange juice, like very sweet, lots of sugar in it. It does spike blood sugar levels and stuff. So it's like, yeah, just go to the source, have like one satsuma on orange as opposed to like a massive glass of orange juice at breakfast. And yeah, like I said, if you can get more vegetables in your diet as well, it's a really positive thing for your gut health and your microbiome and stuff.
So someone asked actually earlier on in the chat about the microbiome. Is there anything more you wanted to say about that? It's one of those topics we sort of hear a bit about, and it's hard to know what to do. Any particular advice on microbiome and gut health?
Well, the rule is just get loads of plants and loads of color in your diet. It's just trying to do the unprocessed food as much as possible. Lots of nuts and grains and seeds, and whether it's flax seeds or chia seeds, and like lots of different colored veg. Don't just be someone who just eat broccoli and peas. Try and get a variety of sort of like, it's ultimately like fiber and bacteria in the gut that helps just get a nice balance. But yeah, I don't overthink it. Some days I have a really high protein, like animal protein. Then the next day I'm like fully plant-based, and I just go with the flow. Do you know what I mean? It's not like I've got this fixed routine or diet. I just see how I feel, see what I fancy. Sometimes I'm having eggs, sometimes I'm just having, you know, more sort of porridge and sort of, you know, plant-based stuff. But it's just like up and down. It's just take it as it comes. Be flexible with it, I think.
We got one from Claire here, but it's perhaps more of a request than a question. Would you start a campaign with the government to abolish VAT on sports equipment, please? Because the cost of trainers and clothing is going up and up. I know you've done some campaigning before, but it's a good point, isn't it? Because, of course, sometimes the stuff we need to be healthy is more expensive than we want it to be.
Yeah, I mean, everything, even like everything seems to have gone up in price, and it's stressful. It's really difficult for people. But I've done my campaign on ultra processed food, and that was a massive step for me to sort of like try and get governmental change. But I don't know, money wins, right? Profit wins. All these companies are driven by profit. Same with the food, and it's hard really. But I just try and sort of continue to use my energy in a positive way that has a real impact in the moment. I sometimes feel like when you start, you know, lobbying and doing government stuff, it can take years and years, and it can drain you of your energy. And nothing changes, right? So yeah, maybe in the future, but I do hope that, you know, there's an amazing site called Vinted as well. My kids and my wife started using this website.
My kids are obsessed with it as well. Yeah,
people will sell like a pair of like brand new leggings for like 12 quid or something, like, or like brand new trainers that they wore once for like a fiver. So Vinted is brilliant, really great place, like a marketplace for sort of decent used sports kit and gear and stuff.
As you mentioned your campaign on ultra processed food, my sister Claire reminded me earlier today about that. You came up with a sort of healthy snack bar that was actually a killer bar that had all the worst things to sort of highlight the sort of junk that's in some of these so-called health products. She was asking me, whatever happened to that bar? Did it ever get to market? What was the outcome of your experience of trying to raise the profile of this problem?
Well, the documentary was on Channel 4. It's called Joe Wicks, License to Kill. And it's about looking into the ultra processed food system and the labeling, because a lot of these ingredients they know are really harmful for our health, but you know, there's no health warnings. They're just like health claims, and it's sort of like hidden behind this protein halo of like added protein. But yeah, I got a lot of stick, you know, a lot of pushback from trainers and fitness coaches, you know, saying, oh, you're attacking and demonizing processed foods. And it's like, I'm just trying to help people eat healthier. So yeah, it was quite a big backlash in terms of that. But you know, it was a PR stunt to promote the show. It wasn't really like a product I was ever going to launch and genuinely like make a business out of it. It's really just to kind of get people watching, and it did work. I mean, it really ruffled some feathers, and they actually tune in and watch it, you know.
Yeah, thank you. So Abby's got a great question, and I'm sure lots of us are thinking about this. She said, I put weight on at Christmas. How can I start to lose weight? I'm female in my late 40s. I'm raising 4 children on my own, work. How can I fit in exercise and healthy eating? Great question, Abby. Thank you.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's come back to all the things you've spoken about, like believing, like I know it's really hard, especially if you have a job and you work shifts and you've got loads of kids, or you've got a short amount of time, but it's believing that you can find time, because, you know, we can all find time to sit and check our emails and scroll on Instagram and watch our favorite Netflix shows and catch up on TV and stuff. And we have to believe that, you know, we can find 15, 20 minutes a day to move our body a little bit. And the same with the food. Like, it is really hard sticking to a healthy diet, but when you start planning and prepping and batch cooking, it's like it really does set you up for success the following day. Like, I know when I go down now, like, I haven't had my dinner yet. I haven't got to do any cooking. I've got a ready-made like sort of chili mince thing I made. I'm just going to have it with some rice or a bit of pasta, and I'm done. So like, it's those little steps that you put into place that, like I said, defend you from the meal deals, the takeaways, the deliveries, because you don't want a meal that you've made go to waste and you spent money on that. Do you know what I mean? It's just a positive reminder that you've got the food ready. You don't need to eat ultra processed food because you're sorted, you're sweet. And so, yeah, I know it's like a pain in the butt, but the more you do that, the more you get in that routine of planning your meals, doing your shopping list. Again, like, change your shopping basket, change your trolley. Like, don't add all the crap that you normally do. Like, if it ain't, I always say, if it ain't in the house, I'm not eating it. And if I'm in bed at 9:30, 10, I'm not downstairs eating like 6 crumpets and 4 bowls of granola and loads of peanuts and peanut butter and, you know, like squares of Lindt chocolate. Like, you just can't eat when you're asleep. So going to bed earlier genuinely reduces your calorie intake, genuinely helps you lose weight. It really does.
Cam's asked, what's your view on intermittent fasting?
I love intermittent fasting. So intermittent fasting basically means, you know, skipping a meal, getting hungrier, and eating your food in a smaller window of time. Now, that could be a you know, a 24-hour fast. It could be 16 hours and just eat between certain hours, 8-hour window. But ultimately, it's just like anything you can do to reduce your consumption and, you know, overconsumption and just like genuine, like general snacking has a massive impact on your body composition. And what it is, the truth is, right, we all eat too much food too often. Not because we're naturally greedy, but because we're told to reward ourselves and treat ourselves all the time. We're told to eat this when you're stressed and, you know, have a snack at 11 a.m. And, you know, just the foods are in their nature designed to be addictive. So we're just sort of brainwashed into thinking we need to eat 4, 5, 6 times a day. But that's not the way humans are designed to eat. You know, we would have eaten once or twice and waited a couple of days and eaten again. But the thought of like not eating breakfast or missing lunch can be really weird and alien for people because they're so used to eating all the time. But when you do have that window of time, let's say you go to bed at, I don't know, 10 p.m. and you don't eat till lunch the next day, like that's it's good. It's good for your gut. It gives yourself a little bit of a break and it helps you get a real appetite so that when you eat, you know, you're ready for that meal as opposed to, well, it's 7 a.m. I better eat breakfast. Oh, it better be covered in milk with some sugar and honey and it better be fruity and sweet. And do you know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to be that way. You can change your habit and your mindset.
I'm just seeing a message in the chat from Labina. I love the energy of this session. I've just picked up some weights and did some random exercises in my living room.
Go.
Awesome. I'd also concur with what you said. I was really skeptical about intermittent fasting, and I tried out kind of what's called a 16/8, where you just start eating a bit later in the day and finish earlier. And I've been doing it for about 6 years now, and it's been completely life changing. Not because I've constantly eaten less, but just because I feel more, as you said earlier, a bit more stable, a bit less hangry, a bit more just calm and in control.
So in that 8-hour window, do you eat 2 meals? Do you eat 2 big meals in that window?
2 big meals. Yeah.
That's for me personally. Like 2 big meals is enough for me. Like, I can do a 1,000-calorie meal, couple of them, and I'm like, boom, I'm done. Like, I don't need to sort of like have the breakfast. But sometimes I'll have breakfast. If I'm on holiday, like this all goes out the window. I'm smashing the buffet. I'm eating 3, 4 times a day. But in my general life, when I'm at home and trying to sort of be in control of it, I think 2 meals a day is enough for me, really.
Another interesting topic, especially this time of year. Jill says, "What are your thoughts around alcohol, specifically on red wine?" Jill asks.
Well, red wine's a good one. Well, look, again, I'm not a big drinker. I do like a drink when I go out. I'll have a gin and tonic and have a few drinks if I'm out dancing or at a festival or whatever. But during the week, I'm not like a drinker. I don't have like beers and wines at night. But, you know, it's like anything. It's like that might be the one thing that you use to unwind and de-stress and decompress after a long day. Like glass of wine, packet of crisps, whatever, on the sofa. Oh, I'm sweet. But, you know, it is calories. It is energy. It has got to go somewhere. It does, you know, make you feel a bit rough the next morning if you're having a cup, 2 or 3 glasses and you feel a bit, you know, sort of cloudy, hazy sort of mood. And, you know, you end up eating a bit of crap the next day because the hangover, if you are boozing, really affects your food choices and what you eat because you only want to eat sugar and carbohydrates when you've had a night on the booze. So, yeah, it's a lifestyle choice, isn't it? It's like, do you want the glass of wine or do you want to get a bit leaner? Do you want a bit more energy or do you want to get a bit tipsy? Like, you have to decide. You can't almost have both every night of the week. Sometimes it's like, look, maybe I'm just going to commit to having a week off the wine, see how I feel. That might become 2 weeks, but either way, like it's okay to drink. But if you're trying to lose body fat, it could be the one thing like holding you back, you know?
Yeah, I realised the thing I loved about alcohol was the socialising. So I just switched to going out, still seeing my friends and drinking alcohol-free beers or, you know, something else, and changed my relationship with it completely. Look, Joe, I'm afraid we're out of time. This has been an amazing journey through the world of health. You've inspired me a lot. I can see so much love and appreciation for you in the chat. We've got practical advice. We've covered such a range of topics. And I think all of us are going to go away thinking about what we can do to put this into practice. But apart from wanting to thank you on behalf of everyone, I can see a lot of that in the chat as well. Is there a final thought you'd like to leave us with? So sort of go away and put this into practice.
Well, thanks for having me, and I hope my sorry about the burping at the start and the coughing. I just had a really tickly cough, and I kept burping. I was having to really hold it in.
You held it together well.
Yeah, I've enjoyed the conversation. I know just all the comments to see that people are saying thank you, and you know, just so I can see it's like I'm trying not to stare at it, but I can see like positive comments, and it's really lovely. And you know, I suppose I just hope that you take care of yourself. Like it's so easy in this world to like, you know, prioritize your mum and dad and your partner or your friends and your kids, and just neglect yourself and sort of stop taking care of yourself. So really see this year as a chance to like put yourself first, because, you know, life is short and health is our most important asset, and being happy and being sort of like positive and being on top of our mental health, it takes work. It's like anything. It's like recovery, right? If you're in recovery, you got to have this daily work. You can't just stay sober. You've got to do the action. You've got to take control. So I hope that some of these points are going to help you, and also, you know, set you in the right direction, because you can change your life. You can change your body. You can change your mental health just one day at a time, you know? So good luck.
Beautiful note to end on. Keep up the inspiring work, Joe. You're teaching us so much and inspiring us so much, and we're very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, mate. Take care and have a lovely 2026. Peace.
Cheers.